Good evening. I'd like to call the Agricultural Commission meeting to order. A couple of notices. First of all, per the state COVID-19 guidelines, all attendees must be wearing masks and maintain the social distancing of at least 6 feet. Additionally, if there is a need for restrooms, the restrooms in the lobby of the Homewood Suites Hotel just down the road are available. With that, we will continue with our agenda. The first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the March 2020 meetings. This is our first meeting since then as a result of COVID-19, and we don't meet during the month of May or July.
I move we accept.
Motion to move that we accept the minutes. You all have seen them. Could I have a second?
Second.
And there is a need for discussion, which I'm going to bring up right now. It really isn't a change to the minutes. It's more of a clarification, which I'd like to have reflected in this evening's minutes. One of the things that was agreed upon back in March is that we would purchase a raised bed for $289.99. That's one of those metal watering trough type of beds from Tractor Supply, as well as one from Costco for $144. I believe we purchased the one from Costco, $144. It's right there.
Right there.
However, the other one for $289.99 was not purchased because that was going to come out of excess of our FY 20 funds, and we had a budget freeze by the town, so we could not expend that money. So that purchase did not take place. So I just wanted to clarify that. Any need for further discussion on the minutes? Hearing no need for further discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good, thank you. Treasurer's report. From Laura, our treasurer and secretary.
I'm sure you'll be talking about some of this in a bit. But, so there's $4,822.41 left from the grant from the state for the well. This was at the end of fiscal year
20, July.
I have to think which
June
fiscal year we're
30th.
in.
June 30th.
Yes, this was as of June 30th.
Okay.
The donation account had $1,955.01 in it. The budget had $831.50, which was not used and got turned back. So that was at the end of last year. Since then, we've taken in one $10 deposit, so the donation account now has $1,965.01. And our budget for the new year is $1,425. Add that all to the grant money, and we have $8,212.42 in our funds.
All right, very good, thank you. Just a couple of questions that we have discussed before. At one time, when you say that the $10 was that where there was a wrong allocation of?
No, that was, Deb made another deposit.
That was
Okay.
a gardener that came late, and
James something
I
like
had to chase him for the check for a while, and it came in right at the end of the fiscal year, and
Yeah.
I wasn't
Okay.
around.
It's just an
so
August
I just
deposit.
Okay.
deposited.
That's fine. But do we still have that small issue? Or?
That was clarified
That
for
was
the end of the year.
Okay, so we're all set there.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got that done by the end of the year.
Great.
Yep.
And we had to pay a portion of the tilling out of the donation account as well as FY 20 account for the agreement with the town administrator. And I presume that will take place.
That, I mean, I know that my records and her
Because I
records
know
are
the
paid
balance-
at the end of the year.
The balance in the donation account is down, and that's I'm sure reflective of that agreement that we had.
Balance, yeah, 140, so that raised bed came out of the donation account,
Yep.
and then $212.50 of
Good.
the tilling and
Okay.
compost came from the donation.
Just the way it was agreed to.
Yep.
Okay, very fine. Thank you for clarifying that. So we've heard the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented?
I move we accept.
Have a second? Any need for discussion? Hearing no need further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Before you go further,
Yep.
can we get names of people so that I can
Oh,
record them in the
yes.
minutes?
Sure. Could we have your name, please?
Charlotte Furbeck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lori Caramel.
Do we need the...
I have her.
Okay. All
You're
right.
Haley, right? Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
And I don't recognize you with masks on, clearly, so sorry about that. Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda, reviewing incoming correspondence. Now, Laura has been kind enough to be picking up the correspondence since March. She and I had a conversation, was it yesterday or today? I forget.
It was yesterday.
About, going through it instead of hashing over months and months of correspondence that events have passed and things of that nature. I asked her just to bring to our attention this evening anything that's current or relevant to what we might be doing in this current time frame. So you have the floor.
So I do have a pile of papers to hand to you.
Okay, I'll
like
put those
them.
in the official file.
But there wasn't really a whole lot in the regular correspondence
Right.
stuff. There was a whole bunch of like Mass Farm Bureau news and views, which, whatever. There was one piece of information of interest, sort of, from the Department of Unemployment about, it was info about a national unemployment fraud scheme, which I think was, to do with COVID as well. There were several farm preservation disclosure notices, and the only other thing in that pile that was really critical to anything that hasn't already gone by is just the fact that our budget was approved for 1425 officially from
Okay.
what's her name?
Eloise, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a certified statement of
Yeah,
our budget.
yes,
Very good.
that's in there.
Good.
So we've got that. And that was really it, other than the icon minutes.
Okay, before we get to that,
Yep.
I have a piece of correspondence that came to me personally, but I think it's appropriate to share if you all haven't seen it or heard about it. But this is a letter from Village Power, formerly Village Farm Supply. They're closing their doors after 69 years of business on September 30th, 2020. So they will be going out of business.
How many years?
69, the letter says.
Ooh.
And they go on to say they've got a bunch of stuff in the back, a lot of metal back there if anybody wants to go in and take a look at it and see if anything you can use. And they also included a list of other dealerships in the area. Anybody want to see this? Okay, I just thought I would mention that this time. Emails to the
Oh
AgCom.
boy. Well, let me first just say that this was my afternoon. The emails start right about here,
Yeah.
there,
Right.
and there from March. So
Yes.
I'm clearly going to just put them in the minutes so that they're on record. And if anybody really wants to see anything based on the title and the date, just let me know. I've saved them all in a folder so I can access them. But apparently we're a little behind on our cybersecurity training, and that's my fault. So
Yes, you scored quite well the last time, so we expect you to
yeah.
keep up the good work.
Again, this might be something that you're going to be talking about. On July 27th, the town administrator sent an email about electric bills for the community garden,
Right.
the water pump, and the use of the legislative funding balance.
Right.
Year-end
That's on the
spending
agenda.
freeze was, I don't know if everybody is aware that there was a year-end spending freeze for fiscal 20. I wish James were here because I had a question for him, because there was something back in May that said from the IT security department, I'm not sure if that's us or somebody else, but our login account was compromised. I've still been using it, so as far as I know it's fine, but I don't know if that was a scam or whatever. We did have that mandatory 1/12 budget reminder. And I don't know if this is still in effect or not, but for any of the expenses that we have, we're supposed to be coding them a certain way if they're related to COVID-19 versus just regular spending. I don't think it really will affect us at all, but and that's really it. The rest of it was all newsletters and stuff like that, so stuff that's already gone by.
Very fine, thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? All right. So let's move on to the next category under old business, and just basically to close this subject out. We had sponsored John Root under a Cultural Council grant for a presentation on May 2nd at 19 Carter, and of course that was canceled due to the COVID-19 situation. Deborah, I don't know if you're on the council. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, anything that's update that or.
We are meeting, this is bad, I don't even know if you're, we're meeting on Friday.
Okay.
And he should have, has he contacted you about rescheduling?
No, he is not.
Okay, because according to the rules, he can request that the funds be forwarded to a presentation next year.
Okay.
So if we would like to support him again, I can't answer the question as to whether he's contacted the council with that request and then would be talking to you because there's been a change in our leadership.
Okay.
And that'll be addressed on Friday. So
I have not heard from him, so why don't we leave it that after your meeting, if it's something that I should do to contact him or whatever.
well, I would say he'll need to contact you.
Yeah. Okay.
As a group, we can just tell everybody, I would just say go next year.
Yeah,
Well,
and does anybody have a concern if we just authorize Deborah to speak on our behalf to allow the presentation in the same general time frame on the same subject for next year?
Okay.
Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yeah.
All right,
And
so
then-
why don't we leave it that way then?
Yeah, and then I'll have him check with you
All right,
just to confirm a date. I think he was going to do it at 19 Carter, wasn't he?
that's correct.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I will speak on behalf of the Agricultural Commission about that. To support that for next year.
Very good,
Okay.
thank you. All right. So I don't know if you've all had an opportunity to look at the garden this year, but it's really flourishing, and I think it looks the best it has ever looked. I know Deborah, our garden manager, has put a lot of effort into it, and getting people to do the right thing at the right time and everything, so I want to thank her for that. And I think,
I have to say, Laurie is a former gardener here, so I'm sure you're in agreement how amazing that looks.
yeah, and I think the water system, the new irrigation system, has been a big plus for the whole garden area. So with that situation, maybe I should, for the audience out there, give a little background. About approximately 2 years ago, we were awarded a state grant, the amount of $25,000 for an irrigation system here at the garden. Since then, we've put in a 500+ foot well. We have put in a pump, a water storage tank. We've had the garden shed behind me electrified to accommodate that requirement. We've had the National Grid put a utility pole in from River Road, an electric contractor putting in a power line from the road to the building. We also purchased and had volunteers install an irrigation line, a seasonal irrigation line, the length of the garden with approximately, I don't know whether we've got 5 or 6 faucets, 5 faucets stationed at various points in the garden. So with that, of course, using electricity comes a bill. And we've received our first electric bill for the period of May 19th to June 12th. The total sum of the bill is $26.01. The town does not pay taxes on such a bill, so the net due to the National Grid is $25.56. The town administrator has asked that I provide her with authorization to make this payment on our FY21 account. We have adequate funds in there to cover this. I see no issue to it. So if somebody would like to make a motion to authorize the town administrator to pay this bill in the amount of $25.56.
I move we accept the payment.
All right, Kevin has made the motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I will so
Carl.
inform the administrator.
Can we vote that to allow you to, without doing it at every meeting, just if it comes up before that, just go ahead and make that payment?
All right, so the question on the floor is for future bills that we will be getting through the season. Will you folks authorize me to just inform the town administrator that she can go ahead and make the payment out of our currently FY 21 funds? Anybody have any problem with that?
The only thing I would say is if it comes back and it's an enormous amount, well then you
Yeah.
get your judgment.
If there's something out of line, I will certainly bring it to everybody's attention, but if it follows the typical pattern, that will save us some time in getting payment out. All right, so if we could just record that, I guess, go on that basis.
We have to make a motion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was thinking of that.
So I think we authorize you
Allow the town administrator.
to allow the town administrator to pay our electric bill out of our account, what kind of budget is it?
Our
For your budget.
annual budget.
Okay, our annual budget.
I second.
The motion is made and second. Need for discussion? Hearing no need for discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good, thank you. So, with respect to the grant I was referring to and the expenditures we've made, we currently have a balance in the grant of $4,822.41, as our treasurer has previously noted. And on July 29th, the state notified our town administrator that we can't continue to spend those funds with respect to additional improvements here at the community garden. So we certainly intend to take advantage of that and plan to do that. Right?
Excellent.
Good. So, based on items we had previously discussed, which with respect to improvements at the garden here, one of the things is maintaining the garden shed. The garden shed is some 20 to 25 years old and is starting to deteriorate. It does need some work and some improvements. Of the things that we're going to talk about relative to utilizing this $4,800 and change, I think that is among the highest priority. And I would suggest we try to get that accomplished before the snow flies. So it'll be up and running and ready for next spring. So that being said, what we had looked at before was putting some sheeting, texture 111 siding on the front of the building. We also talked about other supplies necessary to do that, pine board to trim it out, various miscellaneous screws and nails and things of that nature, 2 gallons of cabot stain, and labor by one of our members on that task for a total of $550 to do that aspect of the job. Other items that I think we ought to consider looking at are the doors on the shed. They're old, they're rotting, they're cumbersome. And I think if we could attach a sliding barn door that would be easy to open and have full access to the door, I think that would be an appropriate change. Right now we have some cement blocks as steps to get into the shed. Makes it difficult to get in and out, and also makes it difficult to bring wheelbarrows in and things of that nature. So I thought perhaps a ramp of some sort might be appropriate there. I think we ought to look more closely at whether we need siding on additional sides. That's a possibility I would think we should look into. We had determined some time back that the roof appeared to be sound, but maybe we want to, now that we have the funding available, consider putting a new shingle roof on that would last another 15 or 20 years. So those are some of the thoughts I have. I'd like to ask if any of you will have any other ideas that might be appropriate to enhance the building or improve the building or maintain the building.
So when we put the siding on the front, are we gonna remove the two, there's two windows, old windows there, we're gonna totally, one of them's a newer window and one of them is pretty old.
Yeah, we had discussed, and I'd have to go around front and look at it, I think, because one of them is already blocked from the inside by pegboard, I believe. I think we had talked about leaving one window that wasn't covered on the inside open or available and covering the other. Do you have a preference there since you're...
No, I was just wondering how, if we were just gonna totally, like, pull that siding off.
Well, I don't think we were going to pull the siding off over it with texture on level. It comes in 4x8 sheets.
Okay.
That's what we had in mind. Again, it's not finalized, but that was the thinking at the time. So, I think, are there any other thoughts about what we should do to the building to improve it? How about the gardeners out there? Do you have any suggestions or recommendations? Okay. So, that being said then,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carl. Do you want me to send an email out to the current gardeners for suggestions? Sometimes
We-
another set of eyes.
we can do that. That's a good idea.
Okay, I will do
I would ask, however, that you will ask them to respond within a reasonable period of time.
Yeah.
You use your judgment there.
I'll do that.
Because one of the things we're going to have to do is, with Buddy's help, we're going to need to come up with a bill of material. Everything we're going to need. And I would suggest we make those purchases at Lowe's. And the reason I'm suggesting that is we can, with permission from our town accountant, town administrator, and the highway department, we can utilize the highway department's, I believe, credit card at Lowe's, which provides us with a discount from the town, for the town, I should say. It eliminates sales tax. It eliminates us having to process individual payments to get approved. And it's just one bill that comes out, we submit it, it's taken care of. We utilize the credit card, the town's credit card, to purchase the material for the seasonal irrigation line that I mentioned earlier that was installed here. It worked out very well. So, after we hear back from other gardeners, I think we can start pulling together a list of bill of materials and the tasks. And Buddy, we're going to have to ask you to look at the labor again, certainly, because we obviously expanding the tasks involved. Yeah. Okay. So at some point, you and I have to communicate on this matter as far as the bill of material. Do you want to start it, or do you want me to take a whack at it? How do you want to approach it?
I'll take a look at it after we get done.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. All right. And like I say, of the expenditures we're going to make, I think has to be the priority to get the building done so it's ready for the springtime. Is there a need for any additional discussion on the refurbishment requirements to the garden shed? All right, so we'll move on. And by the way, when we get done with the list of items, I'm going to come up with a proposed budget allocation for each of these that I've done some calculations on, and we can discuss that again. So the next item that we told the state we were going to use the money for was the purchase of 6 additional raised beds. Again, we obviously want to do that. I don't know that we have to do it for this season, given it's so late in the season, but we can do more investigative work as to what type of beds we want and the location. And we also have to consider that they have to be filled with some sort of loam or compost or something to make them viable this coming spring. So that being said, and let me back up about the preliminary budget. Based on what we talked about earlier with respect to refurbishment of the shed, and now some of the expanded requirements, I think of the $4,822.41, we should preliminarily allocate $2,000 would be my recommendation. And we can vote on this in just a second when I cover the finances of the other 2 projects. So just keep that in mind as well. So what I was going to lead up to is for the purchase of the raised beds. As we mentioned earlier, we were looking into some galvanized ones, and I'm not necessarily saying that's the way we have to go. We can do other things, but for purposes of coming up with a preliminary budget for this task, those units were $289 a piece, times 6. You get that. Oh, very nice, very nice. Wow, the great outdoors.
I'm not
Nice
taking
breeze though.
minutes.
Nice breeze though. Thank you, buddy.
Put them in order.
So what I was saying is, based on that figure, thank you. This is the one I got to sign.
Oh, I need to have you sign on
Okay.
minutes too.
So based on the value of those beds times 6 units, I came up with $1,734. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. The breeze was nice because it is warm out here tonight. There we go. Try that. Plus some soil. So I think you're looking at about another $2,000 for the raised beds as a preliminary budget number. Doesn't mean we have to spend it all there, but at least it's a planning number. And the last item that we had discussed with the state, thank you, as far as expending the balance of the money, was the installation of a low-profile seasonal garden fencing, plus 4 gates. We'll close the garden, keep the critters out, help with improved productivity as a result. We had some preliminary discussions back in March. We didn't finalize any particular design. I've looked at a few things online, and I think for, again, preliminary budget purposes, we're looking at a range of $600 to $800 for that fencing.
Carl, is that anticipating expanding the garden next year?
It really didn't take that into consideration, but here again, we don't have to go make that purchase immediately. You know, we could do it after the returns are in for the registration.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to know
Yeah.
what the,
No, it's based on our current footprint.
okay, so you said around,
Somewhere between $600 and $800. Again, it's just to establish or allocate the $2,400 to $4,800 amongst the task. So let me just summarize the finances, or the preliminary finances, I should say. So of the $4,822.41, I would recommend a preliminary budget of $2,000 for the maintenance and refurbishment of the garden shed. I would recommend another $2,000 for the raised beds and the purchase of loam or whatever to fill those units, and another $600 to $800 for purposes of the seasonal fence and 4 gates. So that all added up, you're looking at somewhere between $4.6 and $4.8 thousand. Does that all sound reasonable to everybody? Can we have a motion?
Spending plan?
All right, a motion is made to accept the preliminary spending plan. I use the word preliminary, is that right? As presented. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there need for further discussion? Having no need for further discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Great. Very good. So, moving on to the next item. As you know, we have security cameras on the facility. They're currently powered by batteries or DC current. James has been asked, and he's working on it, now that we have power in the shed, electrical power, AC current, to convert those from DC to AC so we don't have to be replacing expensive batteries and going on essentially at all times. I understand that late in the day he sent me an email on the subject which I did not get to read, but I know he's working it. It's not that major of a task.
Would you like me to read it?
Please, since you have it, I didn't realize you had it.
His plan is to buy the necessary power cables for the cameras and donate them to the community garden. They aren't expensive enough to go through the trouble of putting together expense reports.
Okay.
So long as there is an outlet ready for the power cords to be plugged into, that should be a fairly straightforward process. notice of the location of the outlets. Sorry for the late notice.
Good. Well, we can thank him for doing that, certainly. And when we had the electrician in to wire the building behind me, we took this into consideration, knowing it was going to happen. And we've had some outlets strategically located on the inside of the building near the cameras outside of the building. So it'd be a matter of drilling a hole through the wall and bringing the cords in and out. So that would be a good thing to do now that we have power. And be one more item we can get accomplished. Any further discussion on that subject? All right. Moving on. Surplus equipment, i.e. the water storage tanks. We have two 550 gallon water tanks, a solar pump system, and a solar panel, which over the years has served us quite well. Even though early on we did have some deaths, unfortunately. But once the system was up and running, it has served us well. It did require lugging buckets and buckets of water, fairly long distances from the tanks to the garden. I think we've seen the current irrigation system performing quite well. I have no concerns that it's not going to do that in the future. So I think it might be appropriate that we declare to the town administrator that we have some surplus equipment and try to have the tanks at least moved off location. Although they have been of utilitarian value, they're not very attractive. And I think it would make an improvement in the area if we could remove the tanks and the massive cement blocks that they're sitting up on, and would give us more space in the raised bed area and just make the whole site look a lot neater.
The town department, DPW, may have usage for those things.
Yeah, that's why I would bring it to the town administrator's attention that these are now surplus and that we would like to dispose of them and ask town highway department not only if they're interested in them, but also ask them to assist us in removing them and removing the 4 massive blocks that are there. The highway department installed that for us, so I'm sure they can handle taking it off site for us as well. So if you all agree, I will contact our town administrator and make that recommendation.
I agree.
All right?
That system is still working?
Yes, the system is currently on and operating, as far as I know. And one of the things I overlooked in my agenda on the new business, and it's relevant to what we're talking about, we did receive in May a Trinity Irrigation invoice for purposes of getting the system up and running for us this past spring. It's an invoice dated May 12, 2020 in the amount of $100. And as in the past, Trinity Irrigation, at Marshon in particular, continues to support, has continued to support our efforts here at the community garden. And the invoice received has been marked paid. So we don't have to take that. If anybody wants a closer look, I'll be glad to pass it around. So we don't have to pay that. And I think it would be appropriate for our secretary to send Trinity Irrigation a formal thank you for their in-kind services. And you know, they've done a great job in supporting us over the years. Trinity Irrigation has, starting it up every spring and blowing out the water line in the fall so it won't freeze. And they've been doing it now, I don't know the exact number of years, but it's probably 7 or 8 years at no cost to the town. So once the telegram. Hopefully I put it in the right place here. Regarding a $174,000 grant that 3 farms in Massachusetts received, and was divided amongst 3 companies. The American Farmland Trust Company and the Cape Cod Cranberry Growers Association and Davidian's Farm Market in Northborough were awarded a total between, and it doesn't say how much each group got, but the total was $174,000 for a federal conservation innovation grant for a project that integrates cover crops and reduces tillage into vegetable gardens to improve soil health. So just wanted to make you all aware of that if you hadn't seen it in the telegram. This was on August 4th of this year. Anybody want to look at it more closely? Just so you're aware. You want to see that? Okay. So, I think that completes our agenda. I have no other items to bring to your attention. Does anybody have any thoughts, recommendations, suggestions? Yes.
I have a question about free-ranging chickens.
Okay.
Does that mean they can go wherever they want on anyone's property?
Well, the theory is, as I understand it, you should have a chicken coop. Usually they're portable in type. You can allow them to be released every day on your property.
I know a little bit about what she's trying to say. Other people's property, the chickens going on somebody else's property.
Yeah, I figured that was.
Yeah, we've got neighbors who have a flock of, we didn't know this weekend, 38 chickens. Currently now, 35. We have 3 dogs. And they descended on our yard. And one of our dogs took off chasing them and nailed 3 of them.
Right, which is not unusual.
Yeah, and I went up and talked to them and offered to replace the chickens. And they told me they had every right for their chickens to go wherever they wanted to go. And I told them we have 3 dogs.
Well,
And, you know, what do we do?
Well, that's the first
So-
time it's
so-
brought up.
so if you want to talk about it in the broadest sense, they're right from the point of view of they can let the chickens go anywhere they want. However, I mean, they do have to recognize the consequences. They are going into your property,
Yeah.
right? And if you object to it, or if your daughters object to it, they have to recognize that. So, the free-range concept is, you know, on your property typically.
Yeah,
Right?
on your property,
They
right.
could have the whole acreage they have fenced in and let them range freely. I don't believe the free-range concept means,
And go to
in
the-
farming terms anyways,
Yep.
that you can do anything you like and just let them run any place you like. I don't
Okay, so
believe
they-
that's
we've asked them-
that's the appropriate definition for free-range
Okay, we
chicken.
asked them if they could fence in their property and they said they didn't.
Yeah, well, one of the concepts of free ranging, as I was alluding to, is they have both chicken houses, if you will, on wheels. They're lightweight type of things,
Right.
and they also use greenhouses, portable type greenhouses with wheels on it. So they're free range from the point of view you let them, you move the house every day to free range on your property.
On their own property.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah. But
Some of the,
I think you'd probably want to discuss this with our animal control inspector.
Okay.
I think that's where I would start, and describe your circumstances
Okay.
from a farming perspective and a right to farm perspective. First of all, they have a right certainly to raise chickens.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No problem with that.
Right. Secondly, they have a right to free range them on their property.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, if I was raising bulls, you know, and they're grazing on my neighbor's property, that wouldn't be appropriate. Yeah, I mean,
Going down
he-
Harley
At this time, they ate my wife's flowers, not someone
yeah,
else's.
right. Well, he tries to confine them. So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, it has to be within the context of your property, I believe.
I would not pay for them.
You would not?
No.
Well, they killed one of them on our boundary and the two others up on their property when you get up there.
Yeah, that gets to be,
Now you gotta
Did
do
they do
that.
any damage to your yard, the chickens?
Just a lot of poop. I've got a 3.5-year-old that let the dogs out, which never happens. And I don't want him walking in the poop out there.
Yeah.
I think your gesture, by the way, to pay for them, whether they're on your property or your dog went on theirs,
Yep.
was an appropriate one to maintain good
Friendship.
relationships.
Yeah.
I think you were certainly appropriate to make that offer.
Okay.
But it should be, the line is to be said that they should stay on their property.
They have to now further down the road, they have to contain them on their property
Free range on their property.
because you won't be
Okay.
responsible for any loss. they
And
make.
again, I think
Yeah.
this is a quasi farming question, and it was a very good question, by the way. But I think we need to have a discussion with our animal control inspector,
Okay.
because she's more familiar with the legalities, if you will, I think, with respect to maintaining animals on one's property.
Okay.
Does that help?
That helps a lot. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and you could, if you really want an arbitrator besides that Farm Bureau office over at Marlboro,
Oh, yeah.
you could pull up.
Good point.
Okay.
You get some info, if you need somebody to be arbitrator that's got the law.
It's a good
Dynamic.
point. Thank you, buddy.
All right,
Bringing that
thank
up. Yep. Any other comments, questions, observations, complaints? All right, make a motion to adjourn.
And we'll be adjourned.
Motion
Second.
made, seconded. Thank you very much for all attending.